to give you just a little teaching on the jealousy offering in Numbers chapter 5, starting in verse 17, and you can read down 7-8 verses, give you the general consensus. And it's just very, very interesting. And I just wanted to get this to you. And what it amounts to, and I won't tarry too long, I could go a long time, but anyway, this is very good, and this will give you a little foundation to kind of study yourself and get a little deeper. But anyway, if a man thought that his wife had cheated on him, then he would bring her to the high priest, to the priest, and the priest would take the holy water, which, as I can understand it, that would come from out of the laver, the brazen laver, or the basin where they would wash their hands. But they would have blood on their hands, and the blood would be in the water. And the typology is that if this woman had sinned, you have spiritual adultery and physical adultery. And if this woman had sinned, then the forgiveness of sin, without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. And the blood being in the water makes baptism, the typology, would be the typology of baptism and the blood. And the fact that the blood is in the water makes the importance of baptism essential, so that you cover all those bases. And then you had the dirt or the dust from the floor of the tabernacle. That's very interesting. Of all the tapestry and all the beauty and all the gold and silver and hangings and all the just the extreme extravagance, all that, and yet the high priest, with all his holy garb and all that he had on him and all that it took, there was nothing on the floor but dirt of the tent of meeting. And they could have easily put some kind of fancy carpet on the floor and rolled it up when they left with everything else and rolled that up. But they did not do that. And the purpose for that, in my personal opinion and in my studies, the dirt on the floor of the tabernacle or the tent of meeting, that dirt represented and made the priest, number one, it represented humility. Number two, it represented the finiteness, that your life is like a vapor that's soon to pass away, and that ashes to ashes and dust to dust, and all of us go back to the earth from which we came. And that was a reminder to the high priest that when he would go in there and begin to perform, and the other priests, when they performed their duties inside the holy place, that they stayed humble, because nobody stays here forever. You can't take your money with you. And so that was pretty awesome to me, and you don't hear that relevance in that teaching very much. I had never heard it till I come up on it and began to think about it, and it was just odd to me that there was no floor in the tent of meeting and no shoes on the high priest or any of the priests. They didn't have no shoes when they would go in there. And so therefore the need, no matter if you're serving, when you're serving God, you've got to be humble and you've got to be submitted and you've got to realize that your life is in God's hands. Mary got him. Mary Gatto, South Bend, Anconia Point. Mary Gatto. And so, now this is live, folks. We're going down the river right below Greenville, Mississippi. Got 16 loads, pretty low water. So it may be a little interruption. A little interruption here and there.
Come get those. See where he's passing out there? The other one probably keep the same track. Come on up.
See, Nash is back here. Come on with him.
And so, anyway, may have some more interruption here in a minute. But anyway, it's pretty awesome that that there was just dirt.
And the floor, sitting Natchez.
And we can't ever.
See, Nash is back.
If there you get ready to go, you're welcome to come up and get in front up there too.
And
I gotta make a crew change that are supposed to have been at 12 o'clock at the bridge.
And so anyway, sorry about that interruption, but so realizing that we are connected, and since we're all,
I don't know, I need to get out in front of you and then bow it up, you know what I mean?
since we're all made of dirt, then the dirt on the floor also should keep the ministry connected to the people. And when you go in, you should never, and working for God and trying to win souls, should never, the whole purpose. Jesus came into the world to save his people from their sins. And so our purpose and goal as a Christian and as preachers is to try to do all we can to win the lost at any cost. And you can study some more on that, but it's very awesome to me. And then they would take they would have the priest write on a parchment a curse that the woman, if she's guilty, would be cursed, and what the curse was, that her thighs would rot and so forth. You read that. And so the woman, if she was not cursed, could drink this bitter drink, of offering of jealousy, and it would not hurt her if she was innocent. And so the test, and she would, and after the priest wrote that down, what the curse was, and the woman had to say amen, which meant so be it, it's right. And if she was guilty after she drank that water, then she would die. But if she wasn't guilty, she would live. And so the drinking of the water was the test of her standing and how she had conducted her life. Well, Jesus asked the disciples, said, can you drink the drink that I drink now? Are you worthy to drink this drink? And they said, yes, we are. And he said, indeed, you are worthy. And so that was pretty awesome in typology that we are to do like Jesus. He said, they hated me, they hate you. Come out from among them, be ye separate, saith the Lord of hosts. Touch not the unclean thing. And God had told in spiritual adultery, not only did Israel commit physical adultery, God told them, do not marry the people of the land. Kill them all. Do not serve the foreign gods and the foreign culture. Don't do that. Stay pure and true to the teachings that God had for them. And so if they didn't do that, so they wound up going to Babylon, is what it was all culminated, and you couldn't stop it. They had to go and be reprimanded and go into Babylon. And it took a long time for them to get there, and God dealing with them, and they never would listen. They never would quit, never would stop until they just finally come to cross the line. Now you can cross the line, you can go too far, and so they would take this curse and they would write it on a parchment, and then they would take hyssop, which was a bush type thing, and they would take that and they would dip it in the water, and they would mark that out that had been written, and it would drip down, if I understand it right, into the cup that they was going to, so they was going to have to drink that curse. And so they had to drink that. And
Are they nagging about? Nagging? You have two whistles?
So the word, it's going to take the word, which that's what that represented, inside you doing the work. And if you're guilty, you'll be sentenced, what's appointed unto man but once to die, and after that the judgment. And then, so you can't get away from the word. And to culminate that, you can't get away from the word. Hide thy word in my heart that I might not sin. And so the problem with the world is sin, and the cure for sin is Christ. And so in this dilemma, this jealousy offering, there was the blood and the water and the dirt and the word. Now that's very powerful, folks. You've got to have all that if you plan on being saved. You've got to deal with every bit of that. You've got to obey the word. You've got to realize that your life is not your own, but that you were bought with a price, and you're no more than just dirt and ashes and out of the earth, and go back to the earth. And the blood and the water, every bit of that is essential in dealing with sin and the culmination of it. And so the woman would take that drink, that bitter drink, she would drink it, and if she was guilty, she would die. And if she was not guilty, she would live. And so in in physical adultery, there is forgiveness for that. Israel had been forgiven many times until they just sinned away the day of grace, sinned away God's forgiveness, and sinned away God's desire to do good for them. They wouldn't have it. They looked on the daughters of Moab and saw that they was fair, and they sinned against God, and they sinned against everything God had tried to do for them. Sexual sins, the reason God hates sexual sins so much is because we were made in the image of God, and sexual sins are a direct sin and a reproach to our creation and being made in God's image. And so God has given us a plan. And a purpose. And so that's very, very important. That's a deep study. And if you got time and you want to try to dig that out, and if I've got some of it wrong, well, I apologize for that, but in my studies, it seems like I got it right as far as what went on. But you can do a real, your own deep study, but I'm not far off, I know that. So, if you have time, we'll do you a deep study on spiritual adultery, physical adultery, because it's important that we not love the world. Jesus said, love not the world nor the things in the world. So it's very important that we do not fulfill spiritual adultery. So I'll leave that with you. I'm very busy, and hope you get some good out of that. And thank you very much.